in this episode, I want to jump straight in and just start planning what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be hooking up Ilkston to our public transport lines. With Ilkston, I would like to connect Luton, NeoBurgh, West Ham, Ilkley, Swindon. So if we start to plan where we're going to be putting that in Ilkston, by that I mean public transport connection, it would probably be towards these commercial and industrial lines, potentially even out here towards the river, because if we look at the contour lines, we can see that Ilkston is kind of between a few hills and mountains and things. So out towards the river lines, we can see that it is actually fairly stable here. We could also potentially build up here in between these hills, which I quite like the idea of. I think that would be quite a nice location for it. However, it is towards the residential zone of Ilkston, so we want to avoid that because emissions will affect the growth of the residential area. With that in mind, I think over here is probably the best. If we were to build out here, I think it would probably be best to build a train station with 4 tracks and high-speed capabilities, of course. We don't want to be building no slow-speed capabilities into our maps. As we can see, it can be a little bit tricky here with the hill that's just next to it. So with that in mind, I think it's probably best if we try and flatten a little bit of the area just so that we can actually build into this area with a flat surface. So if we just build out a bit of a plateau, so don't worry about this for now. We're literally just doing this so that we can build a train station relatively flat and without too much worry. What I may well do is build with tunnel in mind, so build a little bit further away from the city. So if we start by, meaning as we wish to go on, and build some larger buildings here for the passenger area, then that should hopefully future-proof it a little bit for how many passengers that might come along. We could even build on this side. I want to leave it free just in case we want to build anything else on, maybe a couple of extra lines or something like that. You never know what may happen with time. So for now, this is our train station in Ilkston. I think one of the best things that we can do is potentially to build a road down from up high. Why is it staying straight? Relatively sort of straight like so. If we build here, we might be able to build up to it. Yeah, that's a bit more like it, what I was trying to go for originally, and then we can just delete that little bit out and connect into this main road up here to provide a road connection to the train station. With that in mind, we might actually have a bit of trouble here, but we can see how things go. You never know, it might go through without too much of an issue. No, it's not. So a little bit of trial and error. We will probably find a comfortable spot eventually. What I want to do is make sure that we can go into a tunnel to come back around and go towards West Ham. Or what we could potentially do is come out the other side towards West Ham. So what we want is a line from Luton up through Ilkston up to NeoBurgh, and it would probably make sense for us to follow the river line for that. And then we've got the inner line where we can connect up to our Ilkley and Swindon connection, possibly even go over to the West Ham connection. We'll have to see how things go with that. So if we were to look at this as the line going across towards NeoBurgh, we probably need to go over the river. So if we try here, building a relatively flat line through, we don't need to worry about boats too much. We're not really using them anymore. They have become relatively obsolete. So if we build into the hill here, hopefully we can go into a tunnel like so and bring that through, and then we can actually take out the end of this and connect that side into here. And then over here we could potentially do a similar thing that we did on the other side. So take the bridge back a little bit so that the corner can be a little bit wider. In fact, that's relatively kind of where we want it. The only issue is, do we affect that other line? No, we don't. That's fantastic. So we'll just continue out straight there. So if we continue through here, we should be able to go under there and then continue on. There we go. So this line will continue through to NeoBurgh. Now with NeoBurgh, we've got a slight issue here where we've already got a train line coming through. Ordinarily, I would try as hard as we can to avoid that. However, in this specific scenario, and considering it's not going to be too busy of a line, I'm hoping we can get away with just doing a crossing like this, and then we can use one-way signals to control the traffic flow there. Maybe we could even bring that road up here so that the crossing for the road is closer, and then that can actually benefit from being close together because the crossings are closer together. Maybe take out this section of road, take this back. We can then just connect this into here. In fact, it might be best to make sure that we can actually create this into a tunnel first. So let's just try and get this. Yeah, nice and easy. And then we can connect our road into here. And we can even rework the roads on this side a little bit so that they flow in a bit better. Like so. Okay, so we now have our rail line underneath, or at least the beginning of the tunnels to the rail line. Let's put these together, and then we should have the first leg of our line here all sorted out. Our train line up to NeoBurgh all sorted. I'm not going to put a stop here because I don't want trains to come across and block anything from going the other way. So we're going to put a stop here. We'll discuss the where that's going in the next episode. But for now, we're focusing on the Ilkston connections. So let's just pop in a few stops along the way. The first section of track will be sorted for this. So if we want to work in a connection to the main road here, I think it might be beneficial if we attempted that from this side. So if we do a straight out line, possibly even go into a tunnel so that it avoids affecting Ilkston, and we can do that with the connection here. In fact, if we were to smooth out this area first, that will provide us with quite a nice look around the area. So if we do a line coming out this way, so if we put some stops there, that just prepares it. So that will be the line going out this way, and we can do something on this side to connect into West Ham over here. First off, I'm going to put in a connection through down to probably Luton. Kind of want to have a relatively sweeping bend through this bridge, so I'm hoping if we connect these up that might work. In fact, it's not quite working due to the bridge pillars, but that is quite a good bend. So I think what I'll do is I'll just pause it, take the bridge out, and then if we put it back in, it'll probably work perfectly fine. So we've got this connection here, which we can connect straight in over here. And then here, if we connect these two, oh, look at that, it works perfectly fine. Don't know why it was having such an issue. Admittedly, the bridge pillars are kind of in the way of the track. I would much prefer being able to rotate these so that they're, instead of this way round, that way round. so that they go with the track, but that's not really a thing, unfortunately, at the moment. So if we were to come down this way towards Luton, we can do that with our train lines, and we might even share the train lines down for this particular line. So where we might have one line coming out to go over the top, we could use the tunnel here to connect in underneath and then not have to cross over the track in. So then it should be quite efficient sort of transferring through. So if we just do a line through here, considering this is relatively narrow and then it opens back out, we should be good to just connect that into there. We have a few roads around here. I'm not too worried about the roads. I'm mostly worried about going around things like this. Don't necessarily have to go around the coast for the sake of going around the coast. What we could do is come through this mountain here to avoid going anywhere near the mine and the farm. So what we might do is leave this here for now. We might have to delete out the road just here and here, but then we can link it in on the way back. So down this side, we're going to need to extend Luton's train station. So I'm going to start by extending out that next track along. We're going to put another public transport building, just so that hopefully there's a little bit more capacity. In fact, where we're going to be adding more platform, it will extend it a little bit more. So that may well make more sense to do it on that one. Why is it these two? Well, whatever, we'll match it. These two will be the staired parts of the platform, and then down here, so we've got an interesting little building. I don't think... Is that one? Yeah, that's the smallest one. So what we could do, build a slightly larger building onto this one. So the large one looks a bit silly, so we won't go with that. But what we could do is something like this. Would we be able to fit side ones on if we did that? I don't think we would. Maybe we go for... It's annoying because they're not quite centered, and that kind of bugs me a little bit. We'll go with that, and then if we need to put another side one on, we can. That should be absolutely fine. We might even be able to get away with a relatively simple connection here, so it shouldn't affect the road too much at all. What we can do is go underneath the bridge here on the way back through. So if we were to do this line just following the crease of the hill, and that can start to turn back here, and then actually that's already a very steep part of the track. That's actually shockingly steep there. Might be best to avoid going quite so steep around this area, but we do want to continue through. So we're sort of aiming for here, although where that would be in terms of where we are here, I'm not too sure, to be fair, because we have some very steep slopes here. Kind of just want to connect through like this. So if we could just connect in there. It does go down to 80, but considering that's just coming out of a station or going in, it's not too bad. And then we have this part of the track we can start to work with. So we want to follow the curve of the river, working our way along. And we come up to our first obstacle. So if we take out this particular connection, this might be a really good opportunity to just take this level crossing out and do a bridge straight over the top. So we can earmark that for future development. Right now, I just want to focus on the train station or the train line that we're putting in, sorry. So if we're aiming to come through this way, we would have to go that direction. I want to stay flat. So if we go into a tunnel already, that's absolutely fine. There we go. That's the boundary that we need to avoid. So if we just take that up to the same point, that should create a double tunnel there. Perfectly fine. Lovely. So if we start putting things in from the other side, we might be able to just go straight in. So that should be relatively straight through. And then which side do we have protruding? We don't actually have a side protruding. On this one, it's the right hand side. So we need to connect this one in with the right hand side of this tunnel, and hopefully that's relatively flat. We can't really tell from here. And actually, we can put that road back exactly where it is. The road, or the train line, I should say, goes into a tunnel beforehand, which is really good. It means that we don't have to worry about affecting this section of road here. So we'll put that back in there. We can put a road in here, just connecting like so. So over here is a little bit more of a complex area. We've got a hill going up here, so we could make use of that. And then we've got a hill on this side, so we can definitely make use of that. If we stay relatively flat, we could do maybe like a relatively arching sort of bridge. We could use these sort of designs. I kind of want to use the suspension bridge. That would look really quite nice and probably connect in over here relatively well. Probably just want about 2 of the suspension trusses though. So if we take this back, hopefully what we can do, maybe even connect into this road up here, is just take that down with dirt and connect up flat. Go through like so. So if I connect into this road down here, we now have a connection there. I don't think we'll be able to connect in this one without affecting that tree line. And I don't necessarily want to do that just for the sake of putting it in. So what I might do is a road here and then have this connect up on this side to the roads coming out from Luton down here. So then we've effectively put the connection back in here using the what's effectively the Golden Gate Bridge or style of bridge, I should say. So if we just trim this back a little bit, what we might be able to do here is go straight over the top. Bridge pillars are causing issues there. It's a shame that we can't just go through. Ooh, maybe we can. So if we come out in this direction, we can then connect in down here, connect that there, and then all of a sudden we've got a decent link through to this side, for Luton at least, a much better connection than it had before, whereas it would have just come through down here. And admittedly, that's a fairly good connection because we've got the actual tunnel there. But we might be able to work something in on this side to come down towards Luton in a little while's time, maybe in a few episodes' time or something, or a few in-game years, so to speak. So if we just do a crossing here, we can start to prepare by putting stops relatively well spaced out. I think there should be another one here, so I don't know why that wasn't already in there, but we've got another one at that point, and then they start to extend out, which is absolutely fine. We'll try and mirror what we've got on the other side relatively well. We've got 2 on this side. In fact, we've got one where the old crossing was, and I'll just keep that as it is, just to mark where the old crossing used to be, the level crossing. And we'll just continue this through. So this will be completely separate from our cargo network. It's our public transport connection through, and hopefully we can do this and have a relatively fast connection between these cities, really reducing the amount of time it takes to go from one to the other. So that would be our second connection in. That was to Luton from Ilkston. So 2 out of 4 done. And considering we may well share the third connection, or fourth, whichever one we do next, depends on that. It may well make up part of that route as well. So what I want to do here is we need to bridge over this part but go under this part, and then we would need to connect up to over here for West Ham. So that shouldn't be too tricky. We just need to basically find the sweet spot for a bridge which is flat and also avoids going too close to this stuff. So actually we want to sort of draw it from here more than anywhere. It's tricky because what I really want is for this to be a little bit curved coming through here. So in order to do that, I think that is the right height for it. If anything, we could probably go a little bit further down, although we are starting to roll into issues with the good old bridge pillars. So if we just try and keep this, why is it? It's not going down to where we want it to, which is a little bit annoying. So if we take it down manually, try and find the sweet spot. So that should allow us to then draw out from this side, and we can keep that relatively high. Maybe doing a slight curve down. That provides us with a nice 123 mile an hour bend. We could probably even extend that out a little bit further. So if we just do a line next to that, so I'm going to take it up to that point, do the bridge, and then go into a tunnel over here to avoid affecting any other lines. I forgot actually, we've got these lines through old tunnel lines which aren't in any use anymore. But it's, you know, a blast from the past. It's good to see that they're still there and kicking, not that anything would actually take them out other than me. So yeah, I suppose of course they would be still there. So what we're going to try and do here is go over the top of these particular tunnels, because they go quite down low going through that way. So if we just go flat from this point, hopefully what we can do is go into a relatively smooth curve. 87 miles an hour, not bad for going out of a tunnel, out of a train station even. And if we continue that through, then that's a nice line straight over the top of this tunnel, so it doesn't impact it. So if we then connect these up down here, the golden question is, will it work without causing too much havoc? So this is a little bit too high, so if we lower it down, that's fine. And actually that works really well. 186 mile an hour through. Not that any of the dual stocks that we put on would do that. Probably get up to maybe 100, 120 if we're lucky. But that is our first tunnel through for the new line from West Ham. So that's a relatively big connection there, even though it's just to West Ham and nothing seems to really want to go to West Ham, but maybe we've just connected in the wrong cities to West Ham for people to want to be able to go to West Ham. So hopefully if we connect these in, what we can do is, like I said, share this other line. So if we split out from this one and then go into a tunnel, we should be able to hopefully go underneath the rest of the complex without too much hassle. We don't want to go too far down. To be a decent curve ready to connect into this. So I think what we'll do is we'll split off from this one a little bit sooner. I don't want that to go straight into a tunnel, but then we can afterwards, just because that's the inside curve. There we go. So that's the two exits off of this side coming through. Now we need to think about how we're going to connect them up on the other side. So we could go this way round, or we could go this way round, so either clockwise or counterclockwise. And based on where this is coming through, I think it might be best to go clockwise. So if we just take this and come out like so, trying to do a relatively wide curve without affecting, obviously, everything that's around us is going to be a little bit tricky. And we are actually coming out of the tunnel there, so we want to go back. This might be a little bit trickier than we originally hoped. So if we go this way around, we should stay under the hill. So we might have to push this one back. that should be fine. We'll work it out. So if we're coming through here and we're staying flat based on what's there, we should be able to make this curve at least up to 70 miles an hour. So that's fairly decent. And then if we put in the internal curve, which is going to be a bit tighter, goes down to 69 in certain places. But that's okay. So what we can actually do is take this tunnel and curve it a little bit more straight away. So that should at least prepare it for the connection that we're going to put in here. So if we just connect to this line through, we don't want you to be going up. We want you to stay like so, and connect in there. There we go. Effectively a big curve back on itself, but it's going to then go out towards our cities Swindon and Ilkley. So that's where we're going with this one. This is probably just a little bit too soon of a tunnel and a section coming off, so we might need to do it further back, which should be absolutely fine. If we try and do it in the sort of relatively same spot as before, what this allows us to do is come out straight for a little bit, maybe going slightly down, and then we can go underneath at this point, hopefully. This will work relatively well. We want it to stay as flat as possible so that the train doesn't have to go up a hill. So we'll connect that side in. Again, some really slow speeds here, not ideal. And to be honest, maybe we could connect it in further down. That would at least allow us to have a bit more of a sweeping bend. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether we should keep it close together or push it further back. So if we were to do that, it would be somewhere along here where we would need to go underneath. Let's just take it down a slow bit at a time. Something like this. And then that could go into there at a relatively fast speed. Yeah, let's give that a try. So you don't know until you try these things. And unfortunately, this one is a bit too tight of a curve. You know, it's unfortunately a bit much that it's going down to 70 miles an hour, let alone 40 or 50. It will pretty badly impact the line there. But this is about as wide of a curve that I feel comfortable putting in. If we went even bigger with it, it would just be a little bit ridiculous. So if we take this line and connect it into the right hand connection, we've got some nice speeds there. Let's just double check the speeds here. 145 miles an hour. It goes down to 100 here, which is still a relatively decent speed. And then it does slow down here to 60, but it is going into and out of the station. So it's not too bad of a compromise having to put in such a sweeping curve just there. And then we've got what looks like maybe a little bit of a slower connection, which, you know, these things happen. So if we just turn off that overlay and try coming out from there as well. So we might even just be able to connect it straight in. Yeah, that's not too bad. 155, 149. No train is really going to reach that speed, so that's absolutely fine. And then down here, we'll have it separate out underneath, so that will be a little bit better of a connection to go into going under the actual lake here. So we'll share this line going down, and we will share it coming back with the Luton connection. So I'm just going to put in some more stops around where the actual junction is, with the hope of hopefully avoiding too much slowing down due to potential traffic, although I doubt there will be that much traffic on these lines. We're most likely going to go with fairly large trains that will have the capacity and speed to take people efficiently across the map. And then this is where it really slows down, and you've also got the queue into the train station. So we will put in more stops around that point, and then we'll do some stops mirroring the stops that are already in, coming out this way. There's actually stops right underneath this bridge, so if we put some on top, it almost just blurs into one blob on the map when we zoom out, which is quite interesting. And then we've got some here again, so if we put some underneath there, they sort of merge together, which will look pretty decent, I think. At least we're remembering to put stops in for these lines, unlike the Tring line that we noticed last episode. So again, we're going into a station, so I'm going to put some more stops in to allow a couple of trains to wait, and also when they start moving, keep moving into the train station and up to the point where they need to stop. So with that, the third connection is in. We have put in a connection through from Ilkston down to West Ham. So that's quite an achievement in itself, because there's quite a lot of hills and rivers in this area, and I'm quite happy with that. So with this side, it might be best if we start thinking about where the rail's going to come from this particular station. So we're probably going to want to go down earlier on than we've got here, because we've got to go underneath that river and the lake. I don't know whether we might be able to go through the middle, or whether we might have to go around the end, or maybe even I don't really want to go this way. So let's see if we build out from here, are we able to go underneath the river? Not quite. But if we go further down, we can, if we maybe compromise a little bit with sort of how it works, take that as close to the riverbed as possible, and we're looking over here to make sure that it doesn't, there we go out of a tunnel, because that's what we don't want. So that's probably going to be the best connection that we can do across here. So if we just mirror it with this one, that's absolutely fine. And that should put us at a fairly low point to allow us to go underneath this train line and then connect in. So if we start again relatively far back with the connection out, we don't need to go too steeply down again. So we will go relatively steadily down, like so. And then we want that to connect up with that side. So that goes down to about 92 miles an hour. We could potentially improve that if we just trim where the line is and then try and connect that in from a little bit further back. So now it's 126 miles an hour. That's comfortably over the faster train speeds. So we'll put the other one in just here. We just want to keep this one flat, and as long as it goes at a relatively decent speed out, that should be fine. So we'll connect in here, 186 through, goes down to 119, 100, and oh, it actually goes down to 94 here. So it might be better if we continue this through a little bit further, something like up to there. So it's 120 through here, and then we will trim this one back, and same premise as before, we're looking for the most amount of space for this tunnel to be able to reconnect. So it goes down to about 117 there. We could possibly tweak that slightly. So if we just take out these sections, something like this, we can then hopefully connect in a bit of a faster speed down here. 116. Well, I'm going to compromise. I'm going to say that's fine because we've tweaked it and tweaked it and tweaked it. But that means we've now got a connection through down to Ilkston and Swindon. So if we just put in our stops, we now have the infrastructure in, the train track in, to allow trains to go through down to those cities. And we'll probably leave the train tracks for next episode to continue through. I want to complete the train track before putting in the train line. Unlike the riverside rail, we don't want to extend it out at all. I'd like to be able to spread the so if we put a few here, just because this is where they merge and will be effectively queuing up, if anywhere. We want to try and avoid it as much as possible. And then if we just do a stop there and there, a stop underneath, a stop here. Yeah, that should be fairly decent. And then we need some on the other side as well. So hopefully trains will just run straight through nice and fast. If they're up to say 100 miles an hour, they keep going. And then let's just half that side. We need to do the same down here. So put a few stops to allow them to merge relatively well. Let's just half these distances. But yeah, I think if we now focus on the trams for Ilkston, and we're going to do something slightly different. So with the road that we've put up here, we're going to have a normal road connection, but then on the other side, so down this way, we're going to try and do a tram line through that will connect into the city a little bit further down. So if we give that a try, I want to try and copy the curve of the city as much as I can, so then it sort of looks more quote-unquote natural to what the game would do. So I might do actually a road coming down this way, a road coming, we could potentially link that in there and go underneath. Bingo. So let's just raise that up to its limit, and then we can effectively connect that in really nicely, like so. We can connect this in here, hopefully. It might not let us. Let's just try connecting this in, but raising it over the top of the track. Too much slope. That's weird because we just had a road there, but I guess it was able to do more of a curve in. Too much slope. Okay. Well, maybe we'll need to compromise and go a little bit sooner out. So if we do something like this, raise up in the middle to avoid affecting there, and if we can push this, okay, the bridge pillars are going to cause an issue unless we change the bridge as far here as we can. We might even have to go over and connect in down here somewhere. So that should be fine. So if we're doing something like that, we'll raise up in the middle. Take that as close to bombing out as we can. Bridge pillar collision there. Just raise that up a little bit there. And then that will connect in down here. Maybe we can do, oh no, that looks a lot worse. Something like that. So we've got a decent connection through to the main road coming into Ilkston. And this allows us to put in our tram section over here. So this one will literally just turn around over here. We're not going to put in anything to force it to go straight through, because it doesn't really make sense in this particular situation. And then over here we need to start thinking about our line around Ilkston. So I think if we put stops relatively often around the city, hopefully that should cover a lot of the areas where things are expanding. So if we go up around this way, I really want to go straight through the middle here, but then we've got a lot of areas where there's kind of awkward sections of road. So maybe if we just do sort of like a stop there, that should be fine. And then we can connect that back in down here. So that one's going to be a very busy stop. I can already see that because it's right in the center of the city. So if we go into our tools and put in electric tram lines here, we'll be coming up this way. We'll be going out this way. And then we've got a main road straight through Ilkston there that will have a tram connection on it. We just need to figure out where we can put the... Oh! We have a slight area where we don't have trams, so we'll put that in there. Where can we put the tram depot? Hopefully somewhere relatively out the way. Maybe over here. So that needs to raise up in line with the... I wish these things would tell you where the road level is. That looks about right. So then we can connect that in without too much of a slope. I think we've got it as good as we're going to get it. And then that avoids any issues with... you know, blocking any buildings that want to build out and what have you. So, if we put in our first line round Ilkston, we're almost ready for the trains to make their way through. We just have to, we might even double connect here. I quite like that idea, actually. So have one going out and one coming back in for both of the lines. So there's going to be a line going clockwise and counterclockwise. It does mean that people are going to be waiting there quite a bit, so it's something that we need to keep an eye on because they might get too busy. But having a double connection on it should be pretty good. It's a shame that we don't have sort of maybe a larger bus tram stop so that we can have more people wait at these particular stops without overflowing, but it is what it is. I'm not going to complain too much because, let's face it, not everything's perfect in every single game, but we enjoy them regardless. So let's just grab the naming schemes from over here. So this one's for the clockwise. Right, so the green one is clockwise, and then the sort of light blue turquoisey colour is the counterclockwise. So let's just grab that name and put in another C, and then bada bing bada boom, we got a clockwise and a counterclockwise line for Ilkston. We haven't put in the numbering, but that's absolutely fine. Right, so this line is now in, which means that we're pretty much prepared for trains in Ilkston. Obviously, we've already got the tram connections for Luton, for our cities up here, Ilkley and Swindon, and then that continues through via the Riverside Rail there to Littlehampton. We've got a connection up here which goes to West Ham. West Ham already has connections there. And actually, if we check West Ham's destinations, so West Ham really wants to go to Burgh, Dover, Bawtry, Coulsdon. So really there's the big cities over here. I mean, 89% are already using that connection, the line connection that we've got there for Burgh, which is really good. Obviously they would be going via the line that comes through West Ham currently, and then probably swapping over here and going through one way or another. We got a fair few going to Dover, but the line usage is a lot lower down, probably because there's quite a good route straight into Dover via this road. Bawtry over here, again we've got quite a good road up that way, but 72% are using the lines. Coulsdon should really be using much more of the line because it's got a direct line straight through to it. Alford, again, it's just straight off of that line. Littlehampton, but then the next ones are ones which we don't actually have lines to. We've got Maplethorpe and Sutton. St Just, excuse me, St Justin Penwith, we do have a direct connection, and actually 94% of the traffic going there is using that line, which is really good. We've got Winsford being the next one down at 17. I reckon this is going to grow because what we're going to do is connect in from this side down into Winsford on the other track here that we've got coming out. So this number, here we are, 17 and 19, I'm calling it now, that's going to explode and go way higher in the coming episodes. So we've then got Luton. So it's actually really good that we put in a connection to Ilkston, and then from that they can go straight down to Luton for West Ham, that is. We've got Ilkston being one, quite a high one at 11 and 17, considering there isn't any actual connections currently. This is fairly high for sort of just bog standard private transport destinations. We've got Ilkley, so again that line that we just put in connects straight through to Ilkley, straight through to Swindon. It's probably a little bit more of a route than just going down here, swapping over to the Riverside Rail and going across, so I don't know whether it would use it, which is actually quite a thought. I didn't quite think about that, but it's in now, so it's there to stay. What we're going to do with the other side of this line is probably connect up to Bawtry and then do a direct line down to Alford and maybe even through to St Justin Penwith. I haven't quite decided what we're going to do there, whether we're potentially going to go down to Tring, but I figured if we have this line coming through down to Southwold and Hailsham, it may well be a good link through and we can create potentially a circular network here, which would be really pretty cool. Anyway, so Ilkston, Ilkley, Swindon. So Swindon, that line should be better once we have the connection into Winsford. Tolaw's already connected up for West Ham, but it's one of its lower ones. It's only got 9 people going there for shopping, 15 for work, so it's not that high. Swindon, not that high. And then we've got the really relatively low ones, so these are Kesgrave, 0% are currently using transport. So if we put in a train line that allows transport through, that would be really beneficial for these. Knaresborough, ironically, not that many people are going to Knaresborough, even though it's got a direct route through. I don't know whether there's a way that we can sort of entice people from certain cities to go to certain other cities. I think it just automatically picks, but if you know, please let me know. So Southwold and Hailsham are actually really low. There's not even anyone going for shopping to Hailsham, which is kind of understandable, because for West Ham, it's kind of out in the sticks. Like it's really, really out of the way to go to Hailsham. Only one person goes there for work. No one uses public transport, obviously, because we don't have public transport through that area. So it's really out of its way down in Hailsham over here. So we'll probably be connecting through from the line that we connect in for West Ham here, straight down into a connection to Southwold and Hailsham, potentially going over to Tring. I haven't quite decided what we're going to do there. I was kind of thinking we might do a line straight through, so it really depends which line we use, whether we use the line that goes through from Knaresborough, because that's probably going to connect into Kesgrave and then down to Hailsham and Southwold, or whether we use the line which connects into West Ham to connect down that way. Obviously, if we use the West Ham one, it does enable us to create almost like a circular route around the larger section of NeoBurgh, which would be really pretty cool. We only really have one circular network currently, for trains at least. So to be able to put that in for this particular line, I think is probably quite good, especially where it sort of crosses over other lines at different points through the map. I think it could be really quite a strong interconnecting line, because it will be crossing over the high-speed lines at, I don't know why we call them high-speed now, because there's not really much difference between those and the normal lines. Crossing over here at Bawtry and also at Alford. Alford's going to be a real pain to actually put in, so we might have to look at relocating this particular train station. It's not something I'm really keen on, but it's potentially something we need to look at. Another alternative, of course, is to do a completely different station, which may also be, a relatively good option, especially considering we're actually going to have a line crossing the high-speed lines up here. It would just be more of a direct connection then to Alford, rather than sort of interweaving these lines here. We've also got down at St Justin Penwith the Crossburgh Express 2. And then in Tring we've got the Riverside Rail. So there's quite a few different places where it almost interweaves through the different lines and really connects them up. So I think that's probably going to be one of the best lines that we can put in. But for now, I'm going to call this one here. We've done a hell of a lot in this particular episode and put in an entire public transport connection for Ilkston, with Ilkston East down here. Hey guys, it's Future Rob here. I just wanted to let you know that I am going to be editing these videos from now on. And here we've got a showcase of the track that we've made. So we've got Ilkston's public transport line here. So this has two lines going through it, as you've just seen through the episode. One that goes from Luton up to NeoBurgh, and then one that goes from West Ham to Ilkley and Swindon. So we're going to be flying through this, and I'm just going to point out some things. So this is where they cross over, the two lines. And then as we're swooping through, we can see the old train line for the cargo that goes up to NeoBurgh, and also a bridge which connects through from Ilkston to West Ham and also to Littlehampton. But we're continuing through here with the train lines, and you can see here that the train lines connect through. Don't mind that little visual artifact that happened. I don't know why that happened. Anyway, so the lines share this bit of the track, and then it goes into a tunnel even. We're just going to fly through part of the map to get to Ilkley Swindon. When the trains are in that tunnel, it splits, so where the trains were sharing the track, they now split. One line goes down to Luton, which we'll catch up with in a minute. The other line, as you can see here on the left of that image, it comes into Ilkley Swindon here, and that will be a line that goes through in time. So we're just going to fly through from here. We'll get a nice view of Ilkley. I think it's Ilkley. It's one of the two, Ilkley or Swindon. Don't quote me. And then we've got the nice riverside rail there. Down here we've got the cargo interlinks going through. And then we've got our fantastic San Francisco Bay Bridge, or at least the influence of it. And this is where we pick up the train line coming through from Ilkston. So you can see it continues down by the river there. And then over here we've got Luton, the city in the corner of the map. It's hiding in the shadow of that mountain, but it's a nice little view of it there. So we go under the riverside rail line, and we're coming up through to the public transport station, and you can see the cargo there as well. So you've got the tram line, and this is where I am going to hand off to Pass Rob. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this little showcase. Bye. I'm really happy with the progress that we've made. I hope you are too. Let me know what you think of this episode with your thumbs. If your thumbs don't quite cut it and you want to leave me a comment. Also, if you know how to influence a certain city's sort of public and private transport connections and destinations to encourage them to go to a particular city, say for Ilkston, if I really wanted it to go to, say, Kesgrave, other than putting in a decent public transport connection, what would I do? Would I potentially put in a cargo link or something? I don't really know. Let me know in the comments if you know, because I'd be really interested to find that out. But yeah, other than that, thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this episode and you want to catch up with my content as soon as it comes out, then consider subscribing. But as always, have a good. Cheers. Bye.